question is, with the Gazette closing, it leaves a void in community journalism here in the county and the city of Bowie. At the same time, some in the city have questioned the transparency of the city's governing body and the officials. With that said, how will you make sure that policies and information are disseminated in the most transparent way?
Well, I mean, I can't control the Gazette shutting down. I agree with you, that's a loss. You know, I'm a fan of the newspapers. I read 3 or 4 newspapers every day. You know, as far as transparency in the city, we go out of our way to do that. I mean, every meeting we have is on television. It's visible for everyone to see. And all our business is done in public. We have city newsletter. I'm available, you know, wherever. I think we go out of our way to be open and transparent.
You're right that it's an unfortunate occurrence that the Gazette is closed after 50 years of serving the community. But the city needs to be as transparent as it can be. The city needs to use the city government, the staff, the elected officials need to use all available media to get the word out, whether it's social media, whether it's the print media, whether it's the electronic media. And I think that's one thing that differentiates myself from the mayor is the desire to be very transparent, very open, very inclusive.
Use the means that we are currently using here in the city, and also the Freedom of Information Act. Basically, I'm going to go by the book.
You know, is it good to have multiple media sources looking at things? Absolutely. And is it sad that, you know, a newspaper went under? Yes, it is. We got your paper, we still have the Blade, we still have the Post, we got the Baltimore Sun, Washington Times comes out every once in a while. So there's probably, well, the Washington Post doesn't give Prince George's a lot of coverage, and when it does, it kind of focuses on some of the negative stuff in the county. Baltimore Sun thinks Maryland is the city of Baltimore and everything else.
And I think what we need to do is reach out and include people and inform people of issues as they are developing rather than spending a lot of time at the staff level or a lot of the time in executive sessions with the council, making decisions that really should be done in the lightness of day and open in front of the public.
Yeah, I'd like to see more, but you know, I think I'm proud of the fact that we're open and transparent. You know, we have a strong committee system. You know, where everything we do is reviewed by committees and stuff like that. You know, I don't know how many communities won't even start the consideration of a land use or a zoning project without routing it through a community group first.
I have applied actually for a councilmanic position, and I have also run for a mayoral position.
And then when we have our hearing, we have the benefit of the committee's observations, we have the benefit of the professional city staff, and then we have our own public review. So, like I say, I think we go out of our way to be transparent, and I'm proud of that.
You have a lot of possibility to get the word out, and I think we just need to utilize and maximize it. We used to have a newsletter that went out 6 times a year, and the cost of printing and sending it out was prohibitive, and we've gone to other ways of doing that.
Look at this political process here in Bowie. To my knowledge, I don't know any other government that is as open and transparent in the political process as are we. I have to file a report by the 15th of every month that says every dollar that came into my campaign, every dollar that went out of my campaign. I can't take money from partisan political groups, like any kind of like a Republican or Democrat group. I can't take business checks. I can only take personal checks from business people if they want to contribute. At the end of the campaign, I have to zero out my account. So there's no slush funds that lay over. So I think we're more strict on that than any of the other, the county, the state, or the federal government. And I think that reflects well in the city.
The local media that continue to cover the city, I think that the relationship with them is very good for especially this city from my experience for both of my candidacies for office.
Well, I hang around with you guys. It's you guys are great. And I can't think of a time when you've called or stopped by that I didn't stop talking to you. Right?
Right.
Okay, so I like and I respect what the news people do. They perform a valued service. Sometimes, you get critical, and sometimes I deserve it. But I appreciate the give and take.
So I think, but still, it's not the city putting the information out and reporting it, because that's not the role of the government, but rather getting the information out to the citizens is very important. And I think that is something that the next council needs to ensure that we are extremely open, transparent, and honest with the public.
And I appreciate the opportunity for an independent voice to tell the community, this is what we see happening, and this is how we see it. And I like to say, if you look at one of my campaign flyers, you know, it's a little different than the typical that you see. I said, yeah, I think the city's doing well, but don't take my word for it. Here's a comment from Forbes magazine, here's a comment from Money magazine, here's a comment from, these are, you know, professional observers that have looked at the city and said, hey, this is the most well-managed financial institution we've ever dealt with. This is
With the proper due diligence, I think that I will win.
when you have outside voices come in, and when you have Wall Street come in and say, we're going to reaffirm their AAA bond rating because of the way they're managing money and managing debt and whatever else. To me, that's helpful when somebody that may not know me personally listens to me on television or sees me speaking in a group, and then they hear somebody else that gives them a different validation. So I think that's incredibly important.